Hey, what's going on, everyone? In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Shure S12 Pro. So let's look at the chart. So it has a lot of bass, and then it has some mid bass also, and then pretty flat of a lower mid range, and then scoop in the upper mid range, and then the treble peaks slightly at around above 15K. So yeah, here's the chart. And now let's get into the IEM itself. So here's the S12 Pro. It comes with this amazing cable. It almost feels like a custom cable. It never tangles up. It's very common composed. Build quality is phenomenal. It almost feels like a $500 IEM. And then the fit is a little awkward in my opinion because it fits okay, but it's not really secure because of this teardrop type of shape. It doesn't really contour to your ear properly. So yeah, other than that, no issues. Now let's talk about the sound quality. So the bass is definitely boosted on this IEM. For me, the bass was a little too much. I do wish it was a little more calmer because sometimes I get fatigue from too much mid bass when it's not well implemented. And this IEM on some songs, the bass was it just gave me fatigue. I don't know how. But yeah, the bass is very, very boosted. But it's not bouncy. So I feel like it's slightly fatiguing because it has like a dry texture to it. And it sounds kind of like a planar. It's fast. It's well defined. Drums can lack some impact. I was listening to Easy Lover by Philip Bailey, and on that track, I thought that when the drums were playing and when those hits were coming in, I thought it didn't have the best decay. And then I was listening to the song Pure, Born by Hulu, so that song has a lot of bass. It's big, it's bouncy. And on this IEM, I never got that bouncy texture. It was more of that like tight and controlled bass, dry. So yeah, that's the bass. It's pretty high quality. It's not bad. But personally, for me, it was just too much bass. Not that well controlled, I guess. For my preferences, at least. And I do like the bass being more in the background, no matter how good it is or what the quality is like. On this IEM, it's more forward, the bass. So, yeah, that's the bass. And then onto the mid-range. So, the mid-range definitely lacks some heft and some slam. And the lower mid-range is pretty linear. There's good separation with the instruments. And the bass doesn't really bleed into the mid-range, but it adds some warmth. And then the upper mid-range is recessed around the 3 or 4K region, so that lends the vocals to be placed in a kind of back in positioning. So with the full upper mid-range, you're going to be right here. And then with the recessed mid-range, they're going to be placed here or more in front of you type of sound. So like that or like this, with full being right here. So yeah, I mean, I guess they went for that type of tuning. And it's pretty decent. I don't have too many complaints with the mid-range. I was listening to the song Moment I Knew by Taylor Swift. And her voice was more recessed and the instruments were a little warm. And the tonality of the instruments, I thought, was a little on the warmer side. It didn't have like that sharp edge to it like you would find on a balanced armature unit. And then I was listening to Dandelions by Ruth B. So any female vocal you play through here, it's going to sound more enjoyable. But with male voices, it sounds a little thin and recessed, a little weightless. It lacks heft and power when you listen to those types of songs. So yeah, pretty good. I don't have any complaints. I do wish this IEM had less mid bass maybe, or less sub bass. I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but I'm pretty sure it's the mid bass, because for me it's just a little too much of it, the quantity wise. But with the quality, I don't really have any complaints. The quality's pretty good. And then onto the treble. So the problem I have with almost every cheaper IEM under 1,000 is all of them have questionable treble. Like, it never worked for me. That's why I have to keep spending more to get good treble, because any cheap IEM just didn't cut it for me with the treble. So let's talk about that aspect of this IEM. So this IEM has pretty good treble extension. It's not like recessed or veiled or not enough. I thought the treble amount was fine, but I do think it could use more air above 10K. Instead of trying to peak it a little at 8K. And it's sometimes... Okay, so I was listening to Never Give Up on Your Dreams by Two Steps from Hell. And almost every IEM I've heard just butchers that song. And this IEM is no exception. So the instruments kind of sounded too fuzzy and warm. And then the bass was taking over that mix in a way. It just added too much warmth, and the treble lacked air above 10K. So yeah, that orchestra track, it just didn't play it back how it should on this IEM. And then I was listening to the song Breath by Hiromi Motomiya. So with that song, there's a lot of flute air. She's playing a flute. And when I was listening to that song, the treble, it didn't go up to the level of where my hearing's at. It kind of sounded like you're rolled off somewhere. And to get really good treble extension, unfortunately, you have to spend, depending on how you look at things, either $500 or minimum like $1,000 to get something like the Helios. Because the treble, it's good, but it just doesn't go to the highest octaves. So yeah, pretty good. Now let's talk about the soundstage and imaging. So the soundstage is pretty decent. You get a sense of openness. It didn't blow me away or anything. It was just, I would say, slightly above average for the price that I've heard. And then the imaging, I think this IEM has better imaging, because I could place where everything is in the track in a nice manner. But when you do listen to very busy tracks, that's where this IEM kind of falls apart, in my opinion. It just sounds, it doesn't sound really referencey, or it doesn't have that air in the instruments. So when you listen to a violin, when you listen to a cello, when you listen to a trumpet, a flute, it just doesn't reach that very, very high note, which is usually what I want in an IEM. And then the bass, I wish it was dialed back a little. And then the mid-range is a little recessed. So this is like a mild V-shaped type of signature. And maybe if your hearing is not that sensitive, I think this is a good IEM. But if you have sensitive hearing, you're going to pick up those things I mentioned really quickly. But overall, I'm nitpicking. I mean, this is a $150 IEM. So in terms of the sound quality overall, I think it's a good well-rounded IM. Do I think, is it better than the 7Hz Timeless? I don't think so. I think the Timeless is still the best planar you can buy. And this is in second place. The Timeless just sounds a little more smoother. The bass isn't as forward. I think it's just better in the bass, and the treble smoother. But yeah, I mean, the treble on this IM isn't really metallic-y, sharp, or any of that. I just feel like the balance between the bass and the treble was not to my preference. And I couldn't even find, I was turning up the volume, I was turning it down. I couldn't find a good volume to listen to it at, was the issue I had. So when I turned it up, it got fatiguing. When I turned it down, the mid-range was too recessed. And that should make sense if you guys know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, overall, it's pretty decent. So pros and cons, I guess some cons would be if you get fatigue easily by too much mid-bass and too much bass, and maybe a slight bit of sharpness around 8K, this might not be it for you. Look into the Timeless. Another con is I wish the bass was more calmer and controlled. And then I wish it had less mid-bass. I wish the upper mid-range was more filled in. And this IM had more air above 10K maybe. So yeah, I mean, onto the technical performance, I'd give this like an A-. It's really detailed. I don't have any issues with the technical performance. And then the tuning would probably be an A- or an A grade. I think the tuning could use a little bit of refinements. But let me explain one thing to you guys. So all of the planars have some sort of issue. The Timeless had like no depth to the sound. It felt like there was some sort of hole in the wall when you're listening to it, where there's no right-left depth. Everything just sounds like this. But it had no depth. So this IM doesn't have that issue, but this IM has other issues like the mid-bass being too much and the upper mid-range being recessed. So I don't think there's like a perfect planar, but I would say the Timeless is still in first place, and I'd put this in second place. And it does cost less than the Timeless, so I guess I'm fine with that. And maybe I could try out the Timeless AE when it comes out and directly compare it against this to see which one I prefer. So yeah, pretty good. Good details, decent soundstage, good build quality, nice cable. So overall, if you like if you could handle mid-bass and if you don't care about the upper mid-range being recessed slightly, I think this might fit the bill for you guys. Personally, for me, I'm just going to use some other IM like the Helios and Variations and the U12T. So maybe I'm picking this up when I'm going off to work or I don't want to bring an expensive IM. This does sound way better than most IMs under 200. I'm pretty sure of that. Unless if I'm missing something, because I already know the Timeless is one of the best, and then this would be in second place. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It comes with this nice case and tips. So other than that, if you have any questions, let me know. And have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.